Hey, what's going on, guys? The biggest thing for me is that this update is clearly aimed at smoothing out the experience across the board. It is not just one random fix tucked away in the corner. There are improvements for wheels, controllers, graphics, tracks, career mode, and even online stability. That kind of spread usually tells you the team spent some time clearing out the rough edges instead of just touching one mode and calling it a day. One of the more interesting additions is support for the Thrustmaster SF25 wheel rim control scheme. For people using compatible wheelbases, that is the sort of update that can make a proper difference in how the game feels in the cockpit. Sim racing players are always sensitive to this stuff because a wheel setup is not just an accessory, it is the whole experience. So adding support there is a nice move, especially for anyone running a more serious rig. There is also a fix for the Thrustmaster TM SF1000, where the red LED could stay on after a red flag restart. It is a tiny detail, but details like that can be weirdly distracting when you are in the middle of a race. It is the kind of thing that makes you wonder if the game is bugging out or if something is wrong with your setup, so getting that sorted is a good quality of life change. They also fixed an issue with detached Lenovo Legion Go 2 controllers being marked as unsupported, which is the sort of thing that would just be frustrating for anyone trying to play without unnecessary hassle. And then there is the split screen fix. If the second player was using a keyboard, controller vibration could stop working. That is one of those weird little bugs that sounds almost too specific, but if you have ever run into it, you know exactly how annoying it can be. Split screen already has its own set of quirks in a lot of games, so seeing a fix like that is welcome. On the car side, one of the more noticeable changes is that 2026 cars now flash their lights when going below 20 kilometers per hour, which lines up with the regulations. That is the kind of thing that helps the game feel more authentic. It may not be the first thing you notice in a race, but once it is there, it adds to the realism in a subtle way. For a series like F1, those little touches matter more than people sometimes think. There are also some visual fixes for custom cars, especially when using TAA and Fidelity FX sharpening. If you have been seeing graphical corruption there, that is exactly the sort of thing that can ruin the look of your livery in a game where custom cars are a big part of the fun. They also cleaned up a minor heat haze issue on the 2026 Mercedes and fixed several small graphical problems on custom liveries. Again, nothing wild, but if you care about presentation, these are the kind of fixes that make the game feel less messy. Track-wise, they align the overtake mode detection line between the track and the map at Las Vegas and Monza. That sounds very specific, because it is, but it matters. If the visible line and the map do not match, it can create confusion during a race, especially when you are trying to time your move properly. They also fixed lighting and shadow issues on different tracks at certain times of day, which is another one of those quality improvements that can make races look a lot better without most players even consciously realizing what changed. The multiplayer side gets an important fix too. There was a crash that could happen when changing the car category in a lobby with AI enabled, and that is exactly the kind of problem that can interrupt a session and kill the mood instantly. Anything that improves lobby stability is a win, because nobody wants a race night to fall apart over a random crash at the wrong moment. Career mode also got a little attention with updated R&D upgrade images in 2026 Career. That might sound minor, but those presentation details do add up. When you spend a lot of time in career mode, you start noticing when menus feel off or old assets are lingering in places they should not be. So even though it is not a huge gameplay change, it still helps the mode feel more polished. And finally, there are the usual UI improvements and stability fixes. That is the kind of line every patch has, but it is still worth mentioning because it usually means the game should feel a little cleaner overall after the update. Fewer weird moments, fewer visual hiccups, fewer random issues dragging the experience down. So yeah, this update is not one giant feature drop, but it does a good job of tightening things up where it matters. Wheel support, online stability, track accuracy, visual cleanup, and a few annoying bugs getting taken care of. That is the sort of patch that does not always look exciting at first, but once you're playing, you start appreciating how much smoother everything feels.